Hello, welcome to the Midnight Bible Study. Hardcore survivor pope. That's the topic of today's report. How hardcore can how much of a survivor can a pope be? We're going to take a look at Pope Linus, the second pope, the pope that came after the first pope, the Apostle Peter. And we're going to look at just what this hardcore survivor survived through. It's unbelievable. Okay, let's take a look. So, according to Irenaeus, Linus is mentioned, by the way. This is the second pope. He's mentioned in the Bible. He's mentioned. According to Irenaeus, Linus is mentioned in 2 Timothy 4:21. He's mentioned just by name as being with Paul the Apostle in Rome near the end of Paul's life. So this guy was with, you know what happened to Paul. I mean, based on historical events, it's likely that Paul was beheaded, possibly around the same time that Peter was crucified. Given the political turmoil of the day, both apostles could have been caught up in a wave of attacks on Christians following the Great Fire of Rome. So this was a tough time to be a Christian. Paul beheaded, Peter crucified, Christians having their homes burned down, parts of Rome, burned down by a ruthless, reportedly by a ruthless, psychopathic, lunatic emperor. So that's basically, do you want to be pope? Do you want to be the next pope? This is going to be a cushy job, right? By the way, a lot of popes were in fact martyred. But let's take a look at this survivor, Linus, the hardcore survivor pope. All right, imagine the iron will it would take in those kind of circumstances. Imagine the guts and the iron will you'd have to have. Oh, okay, yeah, sign me up to be pope. Right after, in those kind of circumstances. This is a person of faith. This is a real believer. It's not a phony. This is someone who's willing to die for the faith. So, I mean, we have Emperor, the psychopath Nero is the emperor, if reports are true in history. Linus stepped into the meat grinder in this situation, and he survived through the reign of Nero. He survived it. So that was his first hardcore survival trick, as he survived through the reign of Nero. Now, as a disciple of Peter, Linus was pontiff from the year 67 through the reigns of 5 different emperors. So you've got these extremely ruthless, vicious pagans running Rome. So it goes Nero, Galba, Otto, Vitellius, and then Vespasian. So this is a tough place to. This is not a friendly environment for a pope. Yet Linus survived through all 5 of them. Now Galba, Otto, and Vitellius. Those guys didn't last long. They ended up, next thing you know, they were dying. Falling on their own swords or whatever. They had shorts. But Nero and Vespasian, these guys lasted a while, and they were extremely ruthless. They were Nero and Vespasian were in fact persecutors of Christians. So let's take a look. Nero murdered his own mother and 2 of his wives, just to give you a sense of Nero. But he was also known to force Christians into gladiator matches where they would be eaten by lions, and he often lit his garden parties with the burning carcasses of Christian human torches. That doesn't sound like an easy place to be a Christian. Not only are you thrown in to be eaten by lions, eaten alive, but he uses Christians' burning carcasses as human torches in his garden parties. Yeah, this is not a good. This is a tough. It takes a hardcore survivor to say, yeah, I want to be pope in this environment. How many Christians today would sign up for that? All right. By the way, that report about the garden parties and the burning carcasses was according to PBS, and it's not clear whether PBS was for this or against it to me. All right. Perhaps one of the greatest mysteries surrounding Nero was the burning of Rome in 64 AD. Okay, we talked a little bit about that. Now, history has blamed Nero for the fire. Okay, they say Nero did it, and he did what is known as that he took advantage of the disaster to do two things: build his own. He took over the land to build his own new luxurious architecture and persecute Christians. Adam Clarke writes in his commentary that it is commonly believed that when a general persecution was raised against the Christians by Nero, both St. Paul and St. Peter sealed their truth in blood. We talked about that. Now, Vespasian not only persecuted Christians, but he and his son Titus also massacred the Jews of Jerusalem. So these were extremely ruthless conquerors, and carried out a massacre in the siege of Jerusalem. The most significant event of Linus's pontificate was the destruction of the city of Jerusalem in the year 70 by Titus, son of Emperor Vespasian. So when Vespasian had to leave, Titus took over. Linus wrote a book on the Passion of Peter, and that was one of his accomplishments. Now, there's disagreement whether Linus himself was martyred. Some say he was, some say he wasn't. But nevertheless, that's a hardcore survivor, what the environment that he lived through and served as Pope. So there you go. There's Pope number 2. And if you want to hear about Pope number 3 and further popes, we'll be covering those in future videos. So glad to have you a subscriber. God bless you. And good night from the Midnight Bible Study.